Hey everyone, it's Ben from River Surf Lab, and I'm going to talk to you guys about Pueblo's fourth wave and the boards that I surfed there this season, the 2020 season. Now, first of all, the wave, Pueblo's fourth wave is the hardest wave that I've surfed for popping up. So it's the most difficult wave to pop up on. To enter the wave, you jump off of a rock onto your belly and kind of skim over a little seam and hit this foam pile. The foam pile is pretty massive and pretty retentive. It'll actually recirculate you if you're not careful. So it's fairly easy to catch the wave, but then once you're on it, you have to pop up while you're in this really heavy foam pile where there's a lot of turbulence and a lot of white water flowing over you before you get onto the face of the wave. Because once you're on the face of the wave, it's so steep that you'll curl your board if you're not standing on your feet. So at this wave, I've surfed 5 different boards, and I'm going to talk about each one, starting with the ones I liked the least up through the ones I liked the most. So bottom of the list, strong water, front. This is the hardboard, so not the foamy. There's a 5-foot version. I found this board caught the wave fairly well, very retentive foam pile, but once I was standing up and going to surf the wave, I found that the tail was just too wide and too high of a volume to allow me to stall and turn the board on this what's really a massively steep face on this wave. So I found it wanting to slide down that face and either pearl, or I'd have to push it back into the foam pile to recover. I couldn't really stay on the face and make consecutive turns or link point turns. So that was the first one. My second, least favorite board that I surf is the Hydrus. This is the Blisket. And I struggled a little bit on this board. When you jump onto this wave, you're having to jump fairly far out, and you kind of have to throw your board out and land on your stomach. And what I found, which is kind of interesting, is with the Blisket, I couldn't hold the board well enough to land on my chest and on my belly. And I actually added, you can see, these 2 strips of deck material to allow me to hold onto the board while I was landing it and keep my hands from sliding off. I've not experienced that with any other boards, so it's definitely something interesting. Once I got that figured out, though, I was able to catch it very consistently, and this board actually allowed me to really figure out the wave, both because it's high volume, so easy to catch, fairly easy to stand up on, and also because it's made out of this construction which is extremely durable. So I wasn't worried about pearling it, pinging it. I definitely pearled it multiple times at that wave, all the way to the bottom, came away with no dings at all. The big problem with this board is once I was able to catch the wave and stand up, it again didn't like to surf that well just because it was such high volume. And what I found with this board is that I'd get out on the face of the wave, and once I went to turn it with any force at all, the board would just slide out. And that's mostly to do, I believe, with this kind of big tail. So it's a little bit harder to sink that tail, a little bit harder to engage the rails. I tried throwing a bunch of fins on it. I never could really make it work that well. But this board did allow me to learn how to surf the wave, which is great. Next up, I have the Libtech Puddle Jumper High Performance. This is the 5.4 version. And actually, this board gave me the best surfs on this wave. But I was only able to catch it maybe 1 out of 10 times. It was extremely frustrating. Just the lower volume of this board made it so difficult to stand up on this wave. And I even put a ding on the nose of this thing from hurling it into the rocks in front of the wave. It was just so hard in that turbulent white water to push up on this board without pearling it, without sinking a rail and losing it. So I love the way this thing surfed. It has this very narrow, low volume tail, which worked great once you're out surfing, but it was extremely frustrating to get out there. Next up, I have the Surf C Stump. This is the 5-foot version, obviously a foam board. This was an excellent board. And if you're looking for a board to surf Pueblo's fourth wave and you need to buy something, this is a very good option. Obviously, it's very durable, so as you learn this wave, which is very difficult, you're not going to ding it. But it also has enough volume to allow you to pop up fairly easily on this wave. And once you're up, it's got a narrow enough tail and a low enough volume tail that I was able to make really good turns on this board. This board was a ton of fun to surf, and I really enjoyed it. I think, you know, if you're trying to figure out Pueblo's fourth wave and you want to buy a board that's going to help you do that, this might be a fairly good option. The last board I got here, and the favorite that I surfed at Pueblo's fourth wave, is the Puddle Jumper from Libtech, the Lost Shape. This is the 5.3 version. This was a perfect board for me. Easy to catch the wave, easy enough to stand up on the wave, and then once I was standing up on the wave on that seat face, I was able to make great turns off of this tail. Loved it. Was able to get, you know, fairly consistent with this board, so catching most of the waves, which is great because, you know, this is an extremely difficult wave we're talking about. I've seen people who are experienced river surfers get completely skunked for entire sessions at this wave. And, you know, like I said, some of these boards were extremely difficult to catch the wave on. This one was a great balance between ease of catching and standing up on the wave, as well as being able to really rip the wave once I was on it. So this was my favorite. I've had this board for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now. It still turns out to be my favorite board on a lot of waves, which is great. So that's it. If you like the video, I'll be talking about, I think, Glenwood next. So look for that video coming up next week.